Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, here on this magnificent, beautiful, fantastic day and fantastic Friday. Not just because I'm going to be going home literally after this podcast that I'm doing right now, not because it is the weekend and it's vacation, but because Daniel Jones has finally been released. This is the best day of my life. I've never been happier to talk about sports than this day right here, right now. So that is going to be the first segment. We're going to be talking about that. Then in the second segment, we are going to look at the Steelers game against the Steelers game against the Browns on Thursday Night Football. Yesterday, again, it was a fantastic game. I love that game, and you'll sort of see why I really like that game. Then in the third segment, we're going to talk about the Lakers game, more in particular the LeBron's performance, Anthony Davis choking in that game, and Franz Wagner winning the game off the game-winning shot in the end. Then in the fourth segment, we are going to be talking about Pat Riley and how he's getting a statue from the Lakers right now. And, there were talks about him getting a statue. And I will say, I do understand that, in the baseball world right now, Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani ended up winning the MVPs unanimously, They both ended up winning the MVPs unanimously, and they're just no stranger to winning that. But I'm not going to cover that right now because I want to cover the rest of these ones. I'll probably cover that sometime next week. We also have a special fifth segment at the end of the fourth segment, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Before I begin with this fantastic first segment, I'd like to remind everybody that we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether you guys have a hot take, whether you guys have a burning question, something that you've just been dying to share. We're all ears. If you really want your comment or question to get noticed, then you can use Super Chat. You just click on the $sign below the chat box. If Super Chat's not really your thing, then you can always use the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment, which is GSMCpodcast.net. You can send in your comments and or donations that way as well. They really help the show. They make it much more interactive. So with that out of the way, let's go right ahead and go into the first and most likely the best segment ever in my entire life. I am so happy to say this. The Giants are releasing the veteran quarterback Daniel Jones this Friday, today. This is the best day of my life. So owner John Mara, Daniel Jones went to see him, and Daniel Jones asked if the team would release him. Please release me. And the Giants, already getting ready to kick Daniel Jones out the door, was like, yes, please, leave. And, oh my gosh, this is the best day of my life. The longest 6 years of being a Giants fan are finally over. The absolute one of the worst quarterbacks, in fact, the worst quarterback to start this long in their entire season is Daniel Jones right there. He is not a good quarterback. The fact that he was able to maintain his job for 6 years amazes me to this day. He did have that one good season in 2022 when he did win the Giants a game in the wild card, away game by the way, but still, for the majority of Daniel Jones' time as a Giants quarterback, it has been nothing but awful. It has been abysmal. We've had 0-5 starts for several seasons back to back, and it's just never, ever, ever have gotten better with Jones at quarterback. And he cannot throw the ball deep. He still suffers from throwing turnovers. It doesn't seem like he can read defenses. Now with Malik Neighbors on the roster, it seems like he's only been looking at Malik Neighbors, making it obvious where he wants to throw. And even when he does throw the ball, it tends to be underthrown. Of course it is. He still throws the ball to Casper, and he still fumbles the ball. So he's an absolute bust when we drafted him 6th overall. And I cannot believe that it took us 6 years to finally get rid of him, but I am so glad that it's happened. And the owner of the Giants released a statement. The president of the Giants released a statement. Daniel came to see me this morning and asked if we would release him. We mutually agreed that would be the best for him and for the team. Daniel has been a great representative of our organization, first class in every way. His handling of this situation yesterday exemplifies just that. We are all disappointed in how things have worked out. We hold Daniel in high regard and have a great appreciation for him. We wish him nothing but the best in the future. Me personally, I don't wish for anything in the best. That's just my fandom talking, but the reality is that Jones is a very class act. Like he owns up to a lot of his mistakes. He never really talks down on the media. He has very good media training, honestly. Like, and the ability to handle a lot of this criticism that he gets without, like, snapping or like saying anything bad. It's impressive. The Giants in practice, they did demote him really, really bad to a fourth string quarterback in practice. They also made him play safety, which is like, it had a lot of Giants fans just completely appalled and felt like this was incredibly disrespectful. And I understand why a lot of them would feel that way, because Daniel is nothing but a class act. But the reality is that despite the fact that he is a class act, it does not absolve the fact that he is just a bad quarterback in this league. And a lot of Giants fans, some of them like don't like to see like how he's been getting treated by the Giants, but to me, the way I see it is like that's what happens when you get paid all this money and you don't live up to those expectations. You're going to get treated like this, and you're going to be put in positions where coaches think you belong in. It's just how it works. And it's unbelievable how it took up until this long for the Giants to finally move on from him. But he's been absolutely abysmal. And there are moments where, like, he shows good leadership on the field and then immediately just makes those leadership instances just null and void. Like, for example, in the Steelers game, in the game against when the Giants matched up against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, they ran this play, probably one of the worst plays I've ever seen in a game. It was almost as bad as when the Giants decided to do a quarterback sneak from their own end zone, which was also a terrible play. And that was sort of our previous head coach's, that was his way of saying, I don't want this job anymore, fire me. And he was fired immediately after. But regardless, Daniel Jones, he was visibly upset with the play calling and started screaming and getting upset, right? The defense gets a stop. Of course, Daniel Jones leads the ball down all the way to the red zone and fumbles at the very end. And then the defense gets another stop. And of course, Daniel Jones turns the ball over on an overthrown pass. It's like there are these things where he tries to display leadership, but no matter what, he is still nothing but a below average quarterback who is not good at football. I am so glad that he's finally being released. And for the future on the Giants, now they're going to have to rely on Tommy DeVito, the Italian, class act as well, and a hometown hero. He did play for Don Bosco, a team in New Jersey, and they call themselves the Iron Men. When I was in high school, we actually had to play against Don Bosco several times because they're in our division of football. And it's obviously, like, they are a very, very good program and a very competitive team. So the stuff that Tommy DeVito is made out of, Men of Steel, that's real talk right there. And the rest of the quarterbacks coming off the bench from him, there's Drew Lock, who's, again, not really all that good. And it doesn't really seem like, outside of... Jones at quarterback was never good. Especially this season. Absolutely horrible. And the rest of the options that we have are almost just as bad. Tommy DeVito, he'll go in and he'll win a couple of games, at least from what we saw last season. But I don't know if that's really a good sign or something that the Giants want to continue. Because, again, the season is already over for New York. And now is the time to look to the future and look to draft a quarterback. Because there is no doubt in my mind that right now, after releasing Daniel, the Giants are definitely going to draft a quarterback. Like, it has to happen. Which quarterback they draft is still up in the air. And let's see. The ones that come, right to my mind are Cam Ward. Obviously, he's a favorite for a lot of Giants fans right now because not we don't really expect Cam Ward to go that high in the draft, and it doesn't really seem like the Giants own a very high pick in the draft just based off of the draft standings right now. I believe the Jaguars own the best pick in the draft right now, and I mean, there is also the possibility that if we do have a really high pick, that the Giants are going to try to invest it in Shedeur Sanders, which I wouldn't really be upset at that, but I don't think primetime Deion Sanders would anonymous in the chat. Saquon Barkley is laughing now. I mean, I would laugh too. I would laugh too, but it's not all bad because at the end of the day, Tyrone Tracy, he's been fantastic at the running back. He's been in the games that he's played, he's been leading. He's been a really good running back for the team, and I don't really. It's not as if we lost anything when getting rid of Barkley. The difference is that Barkley not only played a couple more games, but he also has a much better O-line so he can actually run. So the production that we're getting from Tracy is, I'm not saying it's the exact same as what Barkley is doing right now, but given the situation that Tracy is in with that offensive line, and given the situation that Barkley is in with that offensive line, obviously the Saquon Barkley is a freak of nature, but it's more or less the same production and more or less solid play, because there would be instances when I was watching Saquon, he would get like 100 and something yards in one game, and then in the next game he would get only like 22 rushing yards in that game, and it was a bit of up and down. But now he has found, consistency with the Eagles, and that's what makes him so good, the fact that he's able to be consistent. And Tracy is proving to be consistent as well, despite, the fumble towards the end of that Panthers game. But again, that is sort of that's a whatever, because again, the season is over, and I completely expect the Giants to draft a quarterback, either Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. Those two are my hopeful picks for a top pick. Now, I mean, there is a chance that we might end up trying to get Travis Hunter. That's what I thought was going to happen. But given this news with Daniel Jones finally being released, thank the Lord, I think they're going to try and draft a quarterback and secure one. So that's it with the first segment. Again, best first segment of my entire life. Best day of my entire life just because of this news. It's the most wonderful time of the year, as they all like to say. And speaking of the most wonderful time of the year, we're going to go ahead and go into the second segment where we're talking about the Browns going up against the Steelers. I thought the Steelers were going to win in this one, and the Browns shocked me, so I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Sorry for that longer than usual wait. I was busy running around in circles in my room because I'm so happy. I was doing backflips and cartwheels. I was doing everything because Daniel Jones was released. I am so happy. But that's not what we're going to talk about in the second segment. We're going to talk about the Steelers matching up against the Browns in this beautiful game. It was beautiful for reasons I'll explain later. I'm assuming all of you watched it. It is Thursday Night Football. But before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody that we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether you guys have a hot take, whether you guys have a burning question, something you've been dying to share. We're all ears. You can use Super Chat. Just click on the $ below the chat box, and you can send in your comments and donations that way. Or you can use the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment, GSMCpodcast.net, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way as well. They really help the show. They make it much more interactive between myself and you guys. So let's go ahead and get into this second segment. So this game was beautiful. Why? It was snowing. I love snow games. Obviously, the players, they would much rather not play in snow, but it's always so fun to watch, like, a football game, and it's just inclement weather, especially when it's snow just falling down and being all over the turf, the grass. It was just a beautiful game. Some of the players, they look like ghosts on Amazon Prime's broadcast. Like, since, we all know that Thursday Night Football games are now being streamed on Amazon, and it looked weird, like seeing some of these players as ghosts, but again, this game was beautiful towards the end. Now, the snow did not, I know it looks like it was snowing all day, but the snow did not start until like around, I want to say maybe the third quarter, like around mid-third quarter, something like that. That's when the snow sort of started. And then once the snow started, it just started pouring. Like, it did not stop. And when I saw that, I was like, that is beautiful. It got all over the turf. It got, the grass, whatever it is that they play on. It got everywhere. All the fans were still in attendance as well. It's just a beautiful game to watch when it's snowing. Obviously, it's super cold and makes the game a little bit more difficult, but it was great. I loved watching snow games. And the only snow game that I did not like watching was the snow games where Tom Brady just effortlessly wins the game despite, it doesn't matter whether it is a snow or whether it is normal weather or not. His kicker was always going to make a snow, especially in the middle of a blizzard, which is incredible. But regardless, the game started out with Pittsburgh missing a field goal, of course, because they had to. And it didn't start out snowing, as I said, so there was really no excuse for missing that field goal. Then the Browns went 3 and out, and then they turned the ball over on downs. The Steelers turned the ball over on downs. And then the Browns went 3 and out again and were forced to punt. So already 2 missed scoring opportunities for the Steelers right there. Then they got on the board first with the field goal, but Jameis Winston answered right back with a touchdown drive to make the score 3-7. And then after getting the ball back, the Steelers ended up fumbling, which ended up with a Cleveland field goal. And that was the end of the first half, the score being 3-10. The real scoring in this game, ironically, came when it was snowing. And usually, some teams, they play worse when it's snowing. Some teams play better when it's snowing. I mean, all of the teams that are in like the northern part of the continent, they tend to play a lot better when it's snowing because those are the weather conditions that they're forced to deal with, and they know how to deal with it. Especially, and some of these players, they've had to play in these conditions for most of their lives. And the third quarter started off with a fumble after 3 plays, so there's that. But then the Steelers once again turned the ball over on downs, which was a very common trend for the Steelers in this game. And it was absolutely horrible. I mean, those were 3 opportunities that I mentioned earlier where the Steelers could have ended up scoring. But then, luckily, the Browns ended up going 3 and out again and forcing to punt. And then the Steelers, they ended up making a field goal towards the end of the third quarter to make the score 6-10. However, if you remember what I said earlier, they missed a field goal in the first quarter. If they would have hit that field goal, then the score right now would have been 9-10 with a very solid chance to win the game in the end. Then the fourth quarter came, and that was when all the scoring happened. The Browns, they ended up opening up the quarter with a touchdown. Then the Steelers answered right back with a touchdown of their own to make the score 13-18. And They ended up rushing the left guard for 3 yards for a touchdown. Jay Warren, he ended up scoring that rushing touchdown. And then on the very next possession, Jameis Winston had the ball and ended up fumbling, and it was a strip sack fumble, which resulted in the Steelers having the ball. And they answered right back with a touchdown pass of their own from, I believe it was Russell Wilson. He was in the game, obviously, and I believe the catch was made by Tomlinson. Let me just go ahead. Yes, it was. And it was a touchdown pass in snow, so it was absolutely beautiful to see live. And this puts the Steelers in the lead, 19-18. Obviously, the Steelers, after scoring the touchdown, they ended up trying to go for two, but the two-point conversion failed, mainly because of the snow blocking the way. One of the things that it was really difficult to see the ball for some of these receivers in this game, and it was also really difficult for the quarterback to be able to accurately throw the ball, as Jameis Winston opened up the very next drive throwing an interception, which it would have seemed like after that interception that the Steelers were going to win the game in the end after playing so ugly, and their defense was able to hold them back. However, the Browns defense responded, and they ended up forcing a 3-and-out and ended up punting. Then Jameis Winston's legacy drive came in, where he ended up scoring a touchdown. He converted on a 3rd and long, converted on a 4th and long as well. And on one of the plays on that touchdown drive, there was a little bit of confusion. So I believe there was either a delay of game penalty or a false start penalty on the Browns. And it would seem like the Steelers, they ended up accepting the penalty. Actually, no. They declined the penalty because it was 4th down, and then they ultimately decided to accept the penalty and prevent the team from gaining more yards and most likely punting the ball away. But this was the thing. This was the problem. I don't know why the Steelers elected to accept the penalty and make it 3rd and long, because shortly after that 3rd and long, Jameis Winston connected with one of his receivers, and it was a 1st down, which ultimately led to the touchdown drive. I think that if the coaching staff would have elected with the decision of keeping the ball on 4th down, declining the penalty, then they most likely would have won the game because they would have had possession. Because regardless whether the Browns ended up going for it on 4th down again, they would have had to go for it, and they would do it 2 different times. So the option that they chose not to go with was giving them one chance to convert on a 4th and long, or instead giving them 2 chances to convert on a much longer yard to gain, and ultimately it resulted in a 1st down. So the way I see it, they only should have given the Steelers, they should have given the Browns only 1 possession to try and secure the win. Instead, they decided to give them 3, and they didn't even need the 4th down. They ended up converting on 3rd down anyway, and ultimately it resulted in a touchdown. The Steelers, they still seem like they could have ultimately won the game, but at the end, the Hail Mary was batted down, and the Browns ended up winning. Obviously, I picked the Steelers. I thought the Steelers were going to win in this matchup because going based off of the history of Pittsburgh versus Browns rivalry, most of the time, the Steelers end up beating the Browns. Not to mention just how bad the Browns are this season alone. I mean, they're only 3-8, and it's really just it's unbelievable the fact that the Browns were able to beat the Steelers in this game. And what I find even more crazy is how the Browns, they have a winning record in their own division. So the only division game that they actually lost was against the Bengals. And let me just go ahead and check to see that they did not play the Bengals a second time. Yeah, they lost to the Bengals, and that was the only loss that they've had in their division. They stunned the Ravens and beat the Ravens, and now they stunned the Steelers, pushing the Steelers back to an 8-3 record. And ultimately, I believe, like, Baltimore fans, they were smiling so hard when this happened. And this propels the Ravens to try, and the Ravens are within 1 game away of being able to retake the number 1 seed, as opposed to being 2 games away of retaking that number 1 seed in their division in the AFC North. So this win was huge for the Ravens, more so than it was for the Browns. And I mean, that Jameis Winston drive, the fact that the defense gave that up, and the fact that Russell Wilson had multiple opportunities to put the game away, but ultimately didn't, it was really unfortunate. Because again, the Browns, they did have they threw an interception. And looking at the box scores for this game, you would think that the Steelers would end up coming out on top. I mean, Russell Wilson, he ended up going 21 for 28 on completions, 270 yards, with one touchdown on an average of 9.6 yards per attempt, and a QBR of 116. And not only that, Najee Harris ended the game with 41 rushing yards, and Jaylen Warren ended the game with 45 rushing yards and a touchdown. Now, while the rushing attack for the Steelers did not really seem all that competent, the Browns' rushing attack wasn't that competent either. Nick Chubb was in this game, and he ended with 2 touchdowns as well as the game-winning touchdown, I believe. And he also ended the game with 59 yards. And while I will say that those yards are impressive, again, it's a little bit lackluster. And yeah, Nick Chubb ran for 2 yards and scored the touchdown to ultimately win the game. And let's see. But when you look at the Steelers' stats, especially at quarterback, I mean, Jameis Winston in this game, he was 18 for 27 on completions for 219 yards and threw an interception with a QBR of 76. You would think that the Steelers, they ended up coming out on top in this game. And honestly, it's really not. I mean, I'm surprised that the Browns were even able to come out on top in this. It's really impressive. And it's an outcome that I did not expect. But the way that the Steelers play football, I will say, I've always said this, the Steelers, they play ugly football. However, in the end, they find ways to win. But there are times when ugly football is not going to win you these games. And this was one of those times. So that's really all that I have on this segment. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the third segment where I talk about the Lakers and the Orlando Magic game, because again, this was another game that I got absolutely owned in these predictions, because almost every single one of my predictions ended up being wrong, except for one game. And we're going to talk about one of those games that I ended up getting wrong, which was the Lakers going up against the Magic, right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned if you're interested.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Sorry for that longer than usual break. Again, I was doing backflips in my room just celebrating the fact that Daniel Jones has been released. But anyways, we're going to pivot over to basketball, and we are going to talk about the Lakers game, because I did watch a little bit of the Lakers game, and it was a very, very close game, and it ultimately ended in a very sad way that I just did not expect to end. It was really close. So the Magic, they ended up winning 119-118 off of a Franz Wagner game winner. Yes, and obviously, this is LeBron, the glorious king, dunking on Jonathan Isaac, because that's just what LeBron does. He's 40 years old, by the way, and he's still putting people in posters. It is absolutely incredible what LeBron has been able to do at this age. And not only that, He ended the game with almost a 30-point triple-double, 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists along with that. Anthony Davis did play well, 39 points and 9 rebounds. However, despite this performance, he is the reason why this team ended up losing. And towards the end of the game, the Magic, they had to foul Anthony Davis. And that would send Anthony Davis to the line. Usually, I'm not scared because this is Anthony Davis we're talking about. His shooting at the line is one of the most efficient in this league for the position that he's playing in. In fact, last season, he was averaging 81% from the free throw line, which is very good, and that's even better than LeBron's standards. We all know LeBron isn't really the best free throw shooter on the planet, but Anthony Davis, he's been very solid at the line. And here he goes. 2 free throws to win the game, because if he makes the 2 free throws, then the score, they would have been up by 4, which would have forced the Magic to do something even more ridiculous than win the game now. Ultimately, Anthony Davis ended up missing both free throws. And as a result, Franz Wagner walked down the court, did his little cross tween, did his moves, and then he did a step back and won the game for the Magic. It was very, very hard to watch. It was very, very, very hard to watch because usually Anthony Davis is very clutch in these kinds of scenarios, and he always ends up, at least in the games that I've seen, he usually almost always ends up making the free throws in the end, and ultimately this was a really bad way to go out, and it was unfortunate. So despite the fact that Anthony Davis ended with 39 points, he is the reason why the Lakers ended up losing. And I'm sure he's going to be just in practice drilling 1,000 free throws because he does not want to miss those kinds of free throws again in the clutch and when the team desperately needs him to. Now, aside from LeBron and Anthony Davis, as well as Dalton Knecht, who ended with 17 points, again, he is a rookie still, so I don't expect him to have 30 in every game. He also shot 7 for 14 from the field, so again, a really efficient 17-point game. Everyone else on the Lakers was absolutely atrocious. Austin Reeves is horrible. I don't know what is going on with Austin Reeves this season, but he has been terrible in a lot of these games that I've seen. And I remember there were so many fans, they were talking about Austin Reeves, and they were talking about how he could be an all-star caliber player. No, he cannot. Austin Reeves cannot be an all-star caliber player, especially with performances like this. Going 3 for 12. Somebody's in the chat. I had to zoom in because the chat is a little bit small. I'm sorry. Thoughts on the whole Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey situation? Let's put this in words that I can say on the air. Obviously, it was blown out a little bit of proportion, in my opinion. I think that the way that these reporters exaggerate some of this news is obviously blown out of proportion. I do not like how Joel Embiid did not take accountability for that being blown out of proportion and actually admitting that he's been late to a lot of things. And obviously, Joel Embiid being late is something that just should not happen, especially when you are the star player on your team and you're supposed to be the leader. It doesn't matter that you're injured, especially then, because he wasn't injured and he was able to use his legs. It's not like he can't get to practice unless he's in an IR, literally in critical condition. There is no excuse for not being to practice on time if you are the leader of the team. In fact, there's no excuse to not being to practice on time regardless of what position you're playing and regardless of the role on your team. That is your job. You have to do that. And I do not really like how Joel Embiid has been deflecting on a lot of that. I do like Tyrese Maxey's leadership for calling out Joel Embiid on that, however. It did backfire on him in the last game because Maxey was abysmal in that last game and was arguably the biggest reason why the 76ers ended up losing. But that whole Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid situation, the whole process with Embiid, because, trust the process, I think it's failing. You can't just put 3 All-Stars on a roster anymore and expect them to win games like they're Golden State. It's not going to happen anymore. And if I was the 76ers, I would personally get rid of Joel Embiid right now. It doesn't seem like Joel Embiid is going to help anybody in the future with all the injuries that he's sustaining. Paul George has also been getting injured as well. Just absolutely awful. Just terrible, in my opinion. And, that's actually a really good question. I was going to do a segment like that next week on Wednesday, but I might as well go ahead and reveal that after I finish the summary with the Lakers, because, again, I still have a couple of things to say. More so on D'Angelo Russell being terrible as well. He got benched, rightly so, and he still ended the game 3 for 10, 1 for 7 from 3. Austin Reeves and D'Lo have been horrible. They've been involved in, like, hypothetical trade rumors, and I don't even know if they're tradable given how bad they've been playing this season. The efficiency from Austin Reeves has been down. The efficiency from D'Angelo Russell has also been down. And it's like whenever LeBron specifically gets something positive from other teammates, there's always those other few teammates that end up playing worse and worse, especially when it matters most. And it is just unbelievable. I cannot with those two players. But I will say, Franz Wagner, he played very well in this game and definitely deserved to win. 37 points as well as the game winner, 11 assists, Jalen Suggs, 23 points. And I will say, this Magic team is way better than what I thought they were. I mean, without Paolo Banchero, they've been able to win a substantial amount of games. I thought for sure they were going to end up losing out and tanking in their record. But without Paulo, they've been fantastic. I did not expect this many wins coming in from them for this coming season. And, I mean, I expected them to win a lot of games, but I expected them to win it with Paolo Banchero. The fact that they're not winning, the fact that they're winning without Paolo Banchero, is really impressive. Because, again, Paolo, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the entire NBA. With the stats he can produce, with his efficiency, with his production, he is a fantastic player. There's every single facet of the game that you could want in a player, he has. It's like he's a combination of LeBron and Carmelo Anthony. I think that's really the best summary that I can give for Paolo Banchero. But that's basically all that I had to say with this Lakers segment. Again, it was a huge choke job from Anthony Davis. And going into what Fettuccini asked in the chat, who is going to win the Thanksgiving games? So I'm going to assume that he's asking about football and those Thanksgiving games, because those games are it's very popular to watch football on Thanksgiving. The Lions, they're going to destroy the Bears. I have no doubt in my mind that that's what's going to happen. Jared Goff, assuming he doesn't turn into Jared Goof in this game, I think they're going to just completely demolish the Bears. Now, the Giants against the Cowboys, that one is going to be a little bit of a tricky one, but I have the Cowboys winning in this matchup, mainly because I don't have much faith in the Giants, and it would be hilarious if the Giants ended up winning, honestly, but I think the Cowboys, I think that's going to be their first win of this season, and it could really go either way, but judging by how the team is with the Giants and judging by the situation with the Cowboys, it could go either way. I'm going to pick the Cowboys in this one. It's just human nature. It always happens. The Giants, they always, more often than not, end up losing to the Cowboys. As much as I cannot stand it and as much as I really don't like it, it's bad. But then in the Dolphins game, the last game, the Dolphins going up against the Packers. The Packers are going to be playing at home for this one. And my gut is telling me to pick Green Bay, but my mind is telling me to pick Miami. So I am very split on those teams, and I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to pick the Packers in this one, even though Jordan Love has been playing rather bad. But yeah, those are the answers. And I'll answer the next question after I go into the short break, because I am running low on time. So after this break, we're going to talk about Pat Riley getting a statue from the Lakers, a well-deserved statue. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we're back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to talk about Pat Riley. He's getting a statue, not for the Miami Heat, not yet at least. He's going to get a statue for his time with the Lakers. And to answer the not sports-related question from Lil Fettuccini, not sports-related, but what are your two favorite sides for Thanksgiving dinner? I am a fatty, so I eat absolutely everything, and I could not give you a favorite if I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, I like absolutely everything that's on the table, and I eat anything and everything. I know it doesn't look like it, but I eat anything and everything. It is incredible. And I actually don't know like what kind of sides we're going to get for this Thanksgiving. Again, I usually wait for it to be a surprise, but you know, anything that's on the table, gimme. I like it. But now we're going to go ahead and go into the fourth segment, which is going to be about Pat Riley. Obviously, Pat Riley is like one of the best presidents, one of the best coaches in all of NBA history. His resume is phenomenal. His resume is incredible. And the Lakers, obviously, that's sort of where he got his start before he ended up becoming the president for the Miami Heat. And his time with the Miami Heat, you can make an argument that his time with Miami was even more impressive than his time with LA. But this man his resume is ridiculous, and this is arguably like the greatest moment. A Lakers owner, Jeannie Buss, said on a video posted on the team's social media, "We're very excited about it, Pat. Doing a statue is a process. We want you very involved in the process. Pick out the pose and what kind of hold on, because there's an error in this text, and what you kind of want to look like and what statement you want to make. But come on, you've got to have one of those Armani suits, because, you know, that's sort of his trademark. And, like, that's sort of what we see him wear almost all the time. Now, Riley, obviously, he started out, I believe, again, it was a very long time ago. I wasn't even born when Pat Riley started out. But he started as a coach for the Lakers. Obviously, he ended up winning championships for the Lakers because he is that guy. He has 9 championship rings, 9 of them, and they're all from different positions as well. They're all from either his time as a player, where he ended up winning in 1972, I believe, for the Lakers. He ended up winning a championship there. That was where he got a championship ring as a player. And the rings that he got as a coach, I believe, was in 1980 when he was an assistant. And then later on, as a head coach, he won rings in 1982, 1985, 1987, 1988. All of those rings, I believe, were for the Lakers. And then he ultimately became a coach for the Miami Heat. And then he ended up winning a ring with Dwayne Wade as the main player, along with Shaq, in 2006. So his resume as a coach is phenomenal. Like, one of the best head coaches in all of NBA history. And if you think the awards stop there, then you are wrong. Like, you could not be any more wrong. So, anyways, I just wanted to clarify. He was the coach for the Lakers, and he ultimately ended up winning all of those championships for LA from 82 all the way to 88. Just completely dominated that decade. And as a president, because he ultimately ended up being a president and an executive for the Miami Heat, they ended up winning in 2012 and 2013, obviously with LeBron James. So this man has 9 NBA championships. One as a player, one as an assistant, one as a head coach, and one as an executive. He's done it all. And not only that, he's also been able to, as the president of the Miami Heat, he's been able to lead the team. Well, not really lead the team, but he's been able to, the team, I should say, let me just rephrase that. The team has been able to make it to the finals in a lot of years when they weren't really expected to make the finals. And they matched up against the Denver Nuggets in one of those finals, ultimately ended up losing. And then they matched up against, well, before they matched up against the Nuggets, they matched up against the Lakers in 2020 in the bubble. And that was also a game where they ended up, that was also a series where they ended up losing, unfortunately. But still, the Miami Heat, they have been a very solid team for a very long time. They also have a very good coach in Spoelstra to lead the way as well. And Riley's resume is just unbelievable. I have no doubt that when it's all said and done, more likely than not, he's going to get a statue for the Miami Heat. And I mean, Heat culture, like Pat Riley is Heat culture. And that whenever I think of Heat culture, I immediately think of Pat Riley. And it's like, you don't really, maybe it's because I'm a little bit young, and I've mainly seen Pat Riley like with and affiliated with the Miami Heat. But when I think of Miami Heat, I think of Pat Riley and LeBron. And when I think of also Dwayne Wade, but when I think of Heat culture, I also think of Pat Riley. Like he's Pat Riley. He is Heat culture. Another question in the chat: who would you like to see get traded before the deadline? Who would I like to see, or who do I think will get traded in the deadline? Because those are very different answers. But I would like to see Giannis get traded. I am sick and tired of Doc Rivers being the coach for Giannis. I am up to here with it. Giannis is playing phenomenal basketball, obviously, because he's Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I would much rather see him in a situation away from Doc Rivers and away from Darvin Ham, and in a better situation for him to win, because you are just never going to win a championship with Doc Rivers as the head coach. Obviously, he was only able to do that once, but this is a very, very big thing that, like, Doc Rivers, he was on like one of the top coaches of all time lists, and he was one of the very few coaches that ended up, like, current coaches to end up making the list. Greg Popovich was on that list, Steve Kerr was on that list, and Spoelstra was on that list as well. And along with Doc Rivers, those guys are the only current coaches right now that are on that all-time coaching list, right? Of all of those current coaches, Doc Rivers is the only one who has only been able to win one championship. He's also the only one that has never been able to lead another team aside from his Celtics in 2008, the only one that has ever been able to lead that team to the finals. That was the only team he took to the finals. Meanwhile, Greg Popovich, he was able to bring multiple teams to the finals and also win multiple finals with completely different teams. Granted, yes, Tim Duncan was a big part of that, but when at first he won with Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Then he ended up winning with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. Then he was able to add Kawhi onto the roster and give Kawhi Leonard the finals MVP. Like, multiple teams and multiple Spurs teams have been able to make it to the finals and even win the finals with Greg as their head coach. Steve Kerr, another coach that has been able to make it to multiple finals and been able to win multiple finals with different teams. Granted, yes, Steph Curry was a big part of that, along with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. Yes. But around them, the players were incredibly different. Harrison Barnes was on the first championship they won. Sean Livingston as well. So they won before they got Kevin Durant, once they got Kevin Durant, and even after Kevin Durant left, they were still able to have a championship team with Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, and all of those other bench players playing phenomenally well under Steve Kerr. Same thing with Eric Spoelstra. While Eric Spoelstra has not won a championship since LeBron and D. Wade, he took that team to the finals 4 years in a row, and then a few years after that, actually a while after that, took a whole new Miami Heat team, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, to 2 finals. And then, look at Doc Rivers. Only one team in the finals and constantly blows leads in playoffs. I do not like Doc Rivers at all. And also, I should give credit to Pat Riley for also being able to bring multiple teams to the finals as well. He's not a current coach, obviously, but when he was a coach for the NBA, he took the Lakers to the finals several times and then ended up being a coach for Miami and took a whole new team to the finals and won the finals with Dwayne Wade. So, no excuses for Doc Rivers in being on that list. I cannot stand that he's on that list, and it's really completely disrespectful for all of the other coaches that have been able to lead their teams to the finals and win multiple finals. The fact that Doc Rivers is on that list, I cannot stand it. I do not like Doc Rivers. But that also just, to give credit to Pat Riley, that also is a reason why Pat Riley is considered one of the best coaches and one of the best people in basketball, period. I mean, 9 championship rings should speak for themselves on all levels of basketball. As a player, as an assistant coach, as a head coach, numerous times as a head coach, and then as an executive twice. Like, that is just an unbelievable resume, having, 9 rings. That's practically 1 ring for almost every single finger. Like, it's ridiculous. But, that's all that I really have on this 4th segment. I did go on a huge rant because, again, I cannot stand Doc Rivers at all. But aside from that, we are going to go ahead and go into a break. And then in the final segment, we're going to quickly recap the rest of the games that happened last night, as well as a quick prediction of the... let me think. Yeah, a prediction of the NBA games, a quick one, and then we'll do a quick prediction of the NFL game. So it's going to be a little bit of a crammy segment, but we'll get it all done. I'll be right back after this short break. And we are back with the 5th segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this 5th segment, we're going to do a quick recap of the NBA games that took place yesterday. And then we're going to do a quick prediction of the games that are happening this weekend, as well as the football games that are going to happen this weekend. So we're cramming a lot into this Friday segment and this final segment. And also, I should point out that Joel Embiid says he is determined to find the, quote, snitch in the Sixers locker room. Oh my goodness. And Paul George also in the players only meeting. Not in the players only meeting, but I believe it was on his podcast. He said, I don't know how Shams got that story or how that even leaked. So clearly they got a mole in the locker room, and he is determined to figure out exactly who that is. And there's a lot of drama for Philly, and I don't really expect them to be able to bounce back from the season that they're having. But also, Lil Fettuccine in the chat, if I don't watch next week's podcast, happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you so much. Very wholesome. But let's go right ahead and get into this quick recap. It's going to be a very quick recap. So every single game that I got, aside from the Spurs against the Jazz, ended up being wrong in my predictions. The Spurs, they ended up beating the Jazz 126-118. Victor Wembanyama did not play in this game, which was very surprising, but they still ultimately ended up winning. Harrison Barnes dropped 25 and 10, and on the Jazz side, Lauri Markkanen ended with 27. Now, every other game that I got wrong, the Raptors ended up beating the Timberwolves. I thought the Timberwolves were going to win, but the Timberwolves ended up dropping the game, mainly because Rudy Gobert was being a bit of an annoying, complaining player in that game. There was one instance where he had the ball in the post. He wanted the ball in the post, and then he got a lazy 3-second violation because he walked away from the paint instead of running out of the paint. And I will say that while he was wide open on that dunk, I've seen Rudy Gobert miss dunks. I've also seen him airball dunks, and I have never seen the Timberwolves run a play with Rudy Gobert in the post. So grow up and maybe not stand in the post like that. Who knows? But regardless, the Anthony Edwards, he ended with 26 points, also ended with an argument against Rudy Gobert, because why would he take a 3-second violation? Obviously, that hindered the team, especially when they were trying to win. RJ Barrett ended with 31, and that was the game. The Hornets ended up beating the Pistons. I thought the Pistons were going to come out winning this game, but they did not. The Hornets completely... who has the worst jersey in the NBA right now? I have no idea. I think all the jerseys, I think they look great, especially the Raptors jersey. Those jerseys, those classic jerseys are fantastic. The Warriors, they also have pretty solid jerseys. And if I had to pick a team that had the worst, I really can't pick any of these teams that have like bad jerseys. I think they're really nice. I think a lot of these jerseys are very clean. I mean, one that I just cannot stand is Dallas Mavericks alternative green uniforms. I think those are very ugly, and that's just my opinion though. The Pistons, they had Cade Cunningham drop 27 and 10 and still lost. They also had Tobias Harris, who is having a much better season than Paul George right now, by the way, ended with 26 points and 8 rebounds. Again, still lost. And as we know, the Lakers ended up losing to the Magic 119-118. LeBron and AD played fantastic. And that was all she wrote for these games. Now, in today's games, we're going to do a quick prediction. Nets versus 76ers. We're going Nets. Warriors against Pelicans. We're going Warriors. Mavericks against Nuggets. I'm going Nuggets. Celtics against Wizards. I'm going Celtics. Pacers against the Bucks. I'm going for the Pacers. I do not trust the Bucks at all. Trailblazers against the Houston Rockets. I'm going Houston. Hawks against the Bulls. I'm going to pick the Hawks. They can never stray too far from being a 500 win rate team. And Kings against the Clippers. I'm going for... That one's a tough one. I think I'm going to go with the Kings on this one. Then tomorrow, the Knicks play the Jazz. I'm going Knicks. Warriors play Spurs. I'm going Warriors. Nuggets play Lakers. I'm going Nuggets. Jamal Murray's just going to find a way to turn into Michael Jordan in that game. Pistons, they're going up against the Magic. I'm going to pick the Magic. Trailblazers against Houston. Again, I'm going for Houston in this matchup again. And I believe they play each other literally back-to-back days in Houston's arena. That's weird. But I'm going to go with Hornets against the Bucks. I do not trust the Bucks at all. And then Grizzlies against the Bulls. Actually, we're sticking with Hornets on that one. And then on Sunday, the games for the NBA, we're going Mavericks against the Heat, Nets against the Kings. Actually, the Kings against the Nets, excuse me. The Timberwolves, I think the Celtics are going to beat the Timberwolves on Sunday. Then the Wizards, they're matching up against the Pacers. I'm going for the Pacers on Sunday. 76ers against the Clippers. I'm going for the Clippers in this Sunday matchup. And the Cavs are going to go up against the Raptors. I think the Cavs are easily going to beat them. So that's the NBA. And now we're going to go over to football and go to a quick prediction of this weekend and the games for week 12. Excuse me. I jumped the gun a little bit over there. So the Giants, they're going to play the Bucks. The Bucks are going to destroy the Giants. The Bears are going up against the Vikings. The Vikings are going to beat the Bears. Lions against the Colts. We're going Lions in this one. Cowboys against Commanders. We're going Commanders in this one. Chiefs against Panthers. We're going Chiefs in this one. Titans against the Texans. I'm going to pick the Texans for this one. Pats against the Dolphins. I will pick the Dolphins in this one. Broncos against the Raiders. I think the Broncos are going to have their number. Niners against the Packers. I'm going to pick the Packers in this one. That's going to be tough, actually, because the Packers, they always have a little bugaboo with the Niners, and maybe this will be like the get-right game for the 49ers, but I think I'm going to go with my guts, and I'm going to go with the Niners because they just always tend to beat them. I will be happy to be wrong, though. Next is the Cardinals against the Seahawks. I'm going to pick the Cardinals in this matchup. The Eagles going up against the Rams. I'm going to pick the Eagles in this matchup as much as I'd love to see the Rams beat them. And then the Ravens go up against the Chargers on Monday. I'll save that prediction for later, but those are all my predictions for the day. And that's all that I have on this fifth segment, and that is it for this podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as usual, we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether it be a hot take, whether it be a burning question, or anything that you're just dying to share. We are all ears. If you really want your comment or question to get noticed, I recommend using Super Chat. So you just click on the $sign below the chat box, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way. If Super Chat is not really your thing, you can always use the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment, gsmcpodcast.net, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way as well. And again, either or really helps the show, makes it much more interactive. That is all that I have today on this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Nelson. Enjoy the weekend, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet.